Hi, my name is David Lowery. I wrote and directed A Ghost Story. I love iconography in films. I love when an individual image or a character or an object can be representative of a larger whole. Which is what I see iconography as. When John Wayne leaned against the doorway in The Searchers, he was just a cowboy leaning against the doorway. But because he was framed in a very specific way, he all of a sudden becomes representative of the entirety of civilization of the Western world and all of the ills that, were included along with that. I grew up in a very Roman Catholic household, so the idea of religious iconography was a big part of my upbringing. I became very sensitive to images that have that sort of representational quality, where they represent more than just the image itself, whether it's a cowboy in a doorway or a saint or whatever it might be. One of the first times I realized that could happen in film in a very literal way was in Jim Jarmusch's Dead Man, when Lance Henriksen steps on this guy's head and crushes it. And Michael Wincott comes up and says,
"Looks like a goddamn religious icon."
And it cuts down to the ground, and the way that this crushed head is laying amidst these sticks radiating out does indeed look like a classic Eastern Orthodox icon of a saint or of Christ. And I was like, oh, that's really cool how a bunch of things can fall into place and become representational of something else. So I started to look for ways to do that in my films pretty early on. I always was looking for ways in which if a character was framed a certain way, he or she might become representational of a larger idea. And I also became very interested in symbols and in glyphs and in visual shorthand and ways in which a very simple image can encompass something far larger than its own literal constraints. So the ghost in A Ghost Story is a symbol that represents a larger idea. I wanted to use this symbol for a ghost within the context of traditional horror iconography.
Stop it! Whose hand was I holding?
So there are scenes in the movie that are shot the way you would shoot a horror movie. And when you watch the movie, you think, oh, this feels like The Conjuring, or this feels like Poltergeist, because I'm using the iconography of a horror film. But because the ultimate representation of the ghost that you are expecting to see is not some horrific ghoul or screaming visage that you would see in The Conjuring, it's this symbol of a ghost. All of a sudden that iconography is transformed and you have to process it in a different way. And when we look at the Snapchat logo, when we look at Pac-Man, and we think, oh, that's a ghost, and yet we never think about what a ghost is. And I wanted to put that middle step in so you have that connection. You're seeing this image that we understand to be a ghost, and you're also thinking about the fact that it is a ghost at the same time, and it's participating in the scene the way a ghost in a horror film normally would, or a ghost in a haunted house movie normally would.
Okay, I want you to watch this very closely. Because if the spirits are with us in this haunted house, they may divine the card.
Holy shit.
And something about that connection, that little missing piece that we normally don't have, where you're taking the symbol and processing it in a literal way, was really thrilling to me. It was really exciting. It was sort of galvanizing to sort of force an audience to process this image that they're so used to in a way that they're not used to processing.